The route of South Florida's development followed the trains. In 1903, railroad magnate Henry Flagler pushed his rail line from Miami to Homestead, opening up settlement in what would become the village of Pinecrest. Soon after, flyers and advertisements were tempting settlers and investors to buy orange groves, pineapple plantations, and year-round vegetable lands. Marguerite Carrier, a French-Canadian watchmaker and repairer, and his wife Selenier were convinced by two of their sons who had motorcycled through the Kendall area to make the 5-day train trip south in 1913 with 7 of their 8 children. The Carriers settled on 20 acres of grapefruit groves and rocky pine lands on the corner of today's Ludlam Road and North Kendall Drive. A 2-acre parcel remains, wooded and secluded at the bottom of the tract. In 1917, Mary Carrier, the eldest Carrier daughter, married a local farmer, Carl Whilden, known for his industry and hard work. In a protective grove of trees just off Ludlam Road, Carl, with the help of his brother and his new brothers-in-law, hand-built a 4-room cottage for his bride out of the local Dade County pine. The cottage still stands, much as it did when it was completed in 1933.
My recollection is my aunt and uncle in this little house, and we used to come down on Sundays, turn in the road down there, go past my Uncle Wilford's, and then come on down here. And we used to park. We used to park the car up here. He had a hedge along here, and we used to park the car up here and get out, and he had a pathway to the back door, and he had a pathway in through here to the front door.
Carl Whilden was from a Georgia family that settled in central Florida, where they were known for cattle ranching and farming. After moving south, he would rise at 2 in the morning to truck his choice produce to downtown Miami markets. Through Mary, Carl married into the close-knit French-speaking Carrier clan. Daughter Betty was old enough when the cottage was finished to help drive in the last nails. The Whilden Carrier cottage is a good example of the kind of construction pioneers used. Wide boards with a thin wood strip nailed over the seam to prevent wind and weather coming in. This is called board and batten construction, and this building is likely the oldest wood frame home in the village of Pinecrest. Much of the original oolite wall built by Marguerite Carrier and his sons can still be seen on the grounds of the cottage.
From what I understand, it surrounded the whole piece of the Carrier property. And all the boys used to say they built it, and my mother used to say, Grandpa built that. They didn't build anything. They all claimed knowledge of knowing this fence, and everybody built it, but she said no. Your grandfather built that fence by hand.
They really were self-contained. All of my family that lived down here in this south end were self-contained. In fact, my parents always said that Aunt Mary and Uncle Carl didn't even know there was a depression. Truly. They were so able to support themselves off the land.
Betty married James Buck, an airman based in Miami during World War II, and Carl Whilden became foreman at Fairchild Tropical Gardens. But the cottage was still a gathering point of the Carrier family.
When I would come down when I was older, and I would come down on my day off and bring my parents, and we'd sit out here if it was nice, and he'd throw a blanket on the ground or something, and he and I would lay on the ground and talk, and my mother and my father and my aunt would sit on chairs out here, and we'd all sit around and talk. And she'd say, you know, oh, Mary, do you remember, you know, this, or Mary, do you remember that? And then they'd laugh and they'd talk about the good old days.
This is like a little house on the prairie. You know, this was a prairie then, it really was.
The Whilden Carrier Cottage, a part of the village of Pinecrest's pioneer past.